A spreadsheet is nothing more than a collection of text and numbers laid out in a rectangular grid. Now, in order to understand Excel, we have to have a review of the key functions in it. Excel is a spreadsheet that will allow you to organize data, make calculations, and graph specifics of information data. The worksheet, as you see here, can be looked upon as a typical notebook. In the notebook, there are many rows, and we can see the rows 1, 2, 3, 4. There are many of these rows, and there are many columns. And in order to see how many rows there are, you can hold down the Control key and press the down arrow. And as you can see, there are over 1 million rows. To go back to the beginning, we can hold down the Control key and we can press Home, and that will bring us back to the beginning. Also, the number of columns go very far to the right, and we can see how far by holding down the Control key and pressing the right arrow. And you can see on top how the letters operate. To go back to the beginning again, we press down the Control key and we press the Home key. And if you want to get a better feel for it, as you can see, when it gets to the letter Z, it continues with AAAB, and you can get the pattern on your own to see how far it actually does go. There are many, many cells. Now, how much can fit in each cell? We'll see that very soon. We can easily move around the screen, and we can scroll and move the mouse. We can press the page down key. So for example, if I press the page down key, you see it jumps down to a bunch of rows. The page up key goes up, and I can press the tab key to move across the screen and press the left arrow or the right arrow to move down. There's a quick way of moving to a specific cell by pressing F5, and you'll see on top it says, where do you want to go? So assuming I want to go to let's say cell A72, I can press A72 and press enter, and you will see that A72 appears on top. This is called the name box. The name box has the location where your cursor is. So if I move my cursor to, let's say, E56, you'll notice that E56 appears over there as well. Now, when we enter information, let's go back to the beginning again. Hold down the Control key and press Home. When you enter information, we have three ways to enter types of information. One are numbers. So, for example, the number 44, and you'll notice when I press Enter, it is right justified. I can put in a name, let's say like John, and press Enter, and it stays on the left. For the time being, we will be able to move it around as we wish, but the default is left justification. And the third type of information we can type in is called formulas or built-in functions. And formulas are typically start with an equal sign. So for example, if I want to add something, I would say equal, and then I put in the name of this what's called function, and we'll learn more about this as we continue. Okay, so the three types of data is numbers, text, and the actual functions themselves. Let's go back and let's see one other aspect of this. When I press the down arrow key, if my function is incorrect, you notice it says pound name. It doesn't understand what I'm typing in. And this is a hint to you that you have to make a change. One other important piece of information, when I enter, let's say a name, let's go down to a different cell, and let's enter the name William. And let's enter Patterson. Notice that the name, when I press enter, will expand across two cells, cells C and D, C5 and D5. Now, it was not Patterson, it was Patterin. Okay, if I go into cell D5 and enter the name, a different name, let's say I enter Joseph, and I press enter, Let's spell it correctly though. And press enter. It seems like the first name, William Patterson, which I wanted, disappears, but it really does not. And if you bring it back to the cell C5, you'll notice on top it says William Patter. Let's change that. It bothers me. Put in the S. William Patterson. It does say William Patterson, even though it doesn't appear that way on the screen. So it is actually embedded in Excel. To see it on the screen, a very easy way to do that is to expand the cell so you can see everything. And by doing that, to do that, we take the cursor, move it between the C and the D. Notice the cursor changes to an arrow, left and right, up and down. Notice how it was before, notice how it is now. And now you just click between the C and the D twice quickly, and it is now expanded. Notice the change of width in cell C and cell D. So what we know at this point is an easy way how to enter data and how to expand the cell. One last thing before we get into actually using Excel. Notice on the screen we have the word John Doe appearing twice, and there is a difference. The one in cell H9 and H10 was written as John, and then the enter key was pressed and we have Doe. And they occupy two separate rows, H9 and H10. However, if we would like, and sometimes there's an advantage of having both John and Doe on one specific line, one row, we can do that easily by typing John, and after John, hold down the Alt. Let's look at two last things in this module, which we'll see at other modules as well as we proceed. But let's just present it here because they're so useful. One is the date. To put in today's date or any date, we would typically type in whatever that date is. Possibly, let's say today is January 19th, 18th, 2012. And we press enter, and it changes to that, basically the format that we expect. However, we're going to talk about this in more detail later, but I would like to show you a shortcut of putting in today's date rather than have to think about the date, what it is, and make a mistake, etc. All you need to do is hold down the Control key and press the semicolon, and it'll automatically put in the date. And that is the date which I'm doing this module today. But we can change that, and we're going to learn how to change it to a different format, maybe by putting in the day first, then the month, we'll put the year in, etc. But for the time being, we've learned a shortcut. One other thing I'd like to show you is a text box, which can be very useful as well. The text box allows us to enter information, and it will not interfere with any of the formulas. And all we need to do is go to Insert, and one of the choices there says Text Box. Click on that, and then you decide where you want it to go. And it's basically for information only. So if I draw the text box by holding down the mouse button on the left, and let's say I'll make it this large, and I can put in some information like the following: remember to tell Rob about the change. And that's it. And when I go out of it, it will not interfere, as I said before. And if I want to make this tighter, so to speak, I can bring it in, and you can see I can adjust it very easily in order to cover the material that I want so that everybody can see it. This can be moved around. What is very nice, it's like a little sticky whereby we can put it in wherever, and we can get rid of it very easily as well by just very simply, we can highlight it and we can press the delete key